Hey, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. It's Dave with you again. Hope you're doing well. I want to ask you a question. Do you consider yourself to be an expert? The expert. The expert in the room. When I do my Living the Next Chapter podcast, I have authors on my show, and I tell them as a guest on my show that you're the expert in the room, and they kind of sheepishly look at me like, well, really? I'm like, I have one book, or I've written one poem, or whatever. And I'm like, well, I haven't done any of that. So you are the expert, and I'm here to ask questions of you so we can learn from you and your journey. So if you've done something that someone else hasn't done, you've learned something, and that makes you an expert in the space. So don't negate what you know, because you know things that others don't, and they would love to pick your brain and learn from your path and your journey. And what you've learned can help somebody maybe skip a few steps and catch up. And you helping them makes you a thought leader, makes you somebody that people go to. So I want to unpack expertise here on the How to Podcast series. And I want to start with, what makes an expert? Are you an expert? Let's unpack your expertise today here on the podcast. You ready to go? So recently I had Sarah Losey on my podcast, on two podcasts. She was here on the How to Podcast series, and she was also on my Living the Next Chapter podcast. She owns Favorite Daughter Media, and she's a great guest. She came on to talk about her book and all the great stuff she's doing in the world. Her book is called Open This Book. Good title, right? You want to open it. And she talks all about branding, and we got on the topic about being an expert in the space. And she's young. She's in her 20s, and she's up on stage talking to people older than her, presenting, and people pulling her aside and kind of saying, like, who do you think you are to be an expert in this space? Like you're young, right? And we talked about, don't let people look down on you because you're young, but set an example for them, and we kind of got on that conversation, that topic. But here she describes for us a really great example of how she determines what an expert is and how she has navigated that title for herself. And I think you can apply this to yourself and to your podcast. So here's Sarah Losey from my Favorite Daughter Media, and enjoy this. This is a little bit from our episode 399 of Living the Next Chapter. Link in the show notes if you want to hear the whole thing. But here's Sarah talking about what it means to be an expert.
I came up with that definition by trying to find a real one. I was researching what it means to be an expert. What's the meaning behind the term expert? How does someone know if they're an expert? All of these different things I was researching, trying to come up with a concrete thing that I could say, you are an expert when you reach this, so that the people reading can aspire to reach that before they start talking like they're an expert. I threw that out. The person whose definition I found the most interesting and that resonated with me the most, her name is Emily Crookston. She's the Pocket PhD. I think I said her name right. I'm actually speaking at an event with her later this week. But I met her because I included her in my book and let her know. But she talked about what she thought an expert is. And I loved it. And I was able to expand on it and talk about the power of curiosity and what it takes to always be learning and how you can challenge yourself to always be learning so that you grow in your expertise. And it was so much fun to dive into that and really challenge my own beliefs, because I changed my mind. While I was reading it, I was able to change my own mind about what an expert was.
So an expert level is not something you attain to be or to become, a finish line that you want to cross. Expertise is simply the curiosity to keep learning, to keep growing. And I've heard it said many times for teachers that there's a little bit of inadequacy sometimes when you stand in front of a classroom of people, that there may be students in that classroom who know more about the topic than you do. And you feel like you're like, oh my gosh, it's algebra. I'm not good at algebra. I usually teach grade 9 gym class. And here I am teaching algebra, filling in for the teacher. And basically the idea is that you just need to know a little bit more than your audience, a little bit more than those that you're standing in front of. And be open and share the fact that you're growing and you're learning as well. And I think as a podcaster, if we had to wait until we knew everything, we would never start podcasting. We would never hit record because you're never going to know everything. It's impossible. No matter how much schooling you have, how many days in the school of hard knocks, how many books, how many podcasts you listen to, all of the content you consume doesn't make you an expert. It feeds you, and if you can develop your curiosity, that's enough for an audience member to connect with you and realize that, hey, Dave's learning as he goes, and I can follow along on his journey and learn as he grows, I can grow. So what makes an expert? If you look back in over time, expertise would mean things like extensive knowledge, education, experience, going to the best universities or colleges, a degree, a diploma, a letters behind your name. All those things would define your expertise. Expertise can also be defined as passion. You don't learn that in school. That's not a book, right? That's who you are. It can be your commitment, your ability to solve problems effectively. Just the way you are and the way you think could be part of your definition of expertise. This whole thing around imposter syndrome and all that, we hear it all the time. And feeling inadequate in the space that we don't have all the answers, so then we should just be quiet and stay in the corner. Imposter syndrome is really that struggle of who am I to stand in front of others and lead when I don't know all the answers. There would be no leaders. There would be no authors. There'd be no musicians. There'd be nothing in this world if everyone had to wait for perfection before they start. You go back and listen to like the beginning of the band U2. Listen to this group of high school kids who created this band, and they were learning their instruments as they were recording and performing live. They didn't even know how to play these things. You can actually hear the inexperience, the fumbling, the simplicity. All of that's like, oh, that's so good how simple your music is. They were playing to the top of their level of expertise in that moment. That was the best they had. But it sounds so simple because they were learning how to do the thing in the moment. It didn't stop them. U2 wouldn't be U2 if they waited until they became U2 to be U2. Does that make any sense? Right? They just started with what they had, and they learned as they went, and they grew as they grew, and that's how they became U2. You don't have to wait for the finality and the finish line as your starting point. Start now. If I went to your car, or we rented a car, you and I went on a trip. We get to the car rental place and they say, oh, we're sorry, we're all out of cars. We have one car left, but nobody wants it. It's like, oh, is it ugly? No, it's a manual transmission and nobody can drive it. All of the other cars are gone, and you're gonna have to wait, or you're gonna have to go somewhere else. And we look at each other, and you look at me going, well, I can't drive standard. And I'm like, well, I'm actually quite an expert in driving standard. I've been driving standard since I was 16, and I'm in my 50s. So, yeah, that's not a problem. And then the look on your face would be like, what, you drive, what? Yeah, driving standard to me is common knowledge. I prefer it over automatic, just because automatic is so boring. It's basically a couch with a steering wheel and a gas pedal. It's really, really boring. Standard, you're actually driving the car and you're engaged, right? Using the clutch and all that. That's simple for me. I don't even have to think about it. So yeah, I could drive standard for you anytime you want. And it then opens the door for me to drive a bunch of cars that you can't because you don't know how to do that. So expertise can just become something that you've just practiced over time and you don't even think about it. You jump in the car, put the key in, seatbelt on, clutch in, let's go. It's not even I've never sat there worried going, okay, what do I have to do again? Right? How do I do this? What goes where? Yeah. It's just common knowledge. So I am, therefore, with the length of time I've been driving, I am an expert in driving a manual transmission, and I can teach you how to do that. I've taught my kids how to drive standard, and we've had some great success with that. So I can teach. I am therefore an expert in driving manual transmission. It's very simple for me. There are a lot of great examples out there of people who are experts in their space. And it's not because they went to school for it. It's not because they are particularly smarter than everybody else. It's just that they've been doing the thing for a while. And just by doing the thing, you're a podcaster. Just doing podcasting makes you, to some level and some degree, an expert in podcasting because you're doing it. To somebody who's never done this before and has zero idea how a podcast works, you know more than they do. Therefore, fill in the blank, you're an expert to them because you have something to teach them and something to share. So right there, take your expertise of the things you've been doing to whatever degree and however long, and then add in the curiosity to learn more. You're here listening to a podcast about podcasting, which tells me you're curious that you want to learn more than what you know now. I listen to podcasts about podcasting because I don't know everything about podcasting. I know. I can see the shocked look on your face. You're like, really? Yeah, no. I know that I don't know things about podcasting because I haven't got there yet. And there's people who've been doing this a lot longer than me, and they know more than I do. So I pick up from them and learn from them because they have a longer journey, a longer path than I have been on. So I can learn from them and kind of skip along and catch up to some degree to what they know, just if they share it. So that's what I'm hoping for in this podcast. So some practical steps to embrace your expertise. I have 4 for you already. First one, continuous learning. I want to encourage you to focus on ongoing education through books, online courses, real world experience, and listening to other podcasts. Continuously learning the craft, whatever that is. You're writing a book, learn from other authors, read other books, listen to podcasts like the Living the Next Chapter podcast, and figure out what's working for others, and then take that and make it work for you. Continually learning. Just because you finished high school, college, university, got the degree, got the bills, doesn't mean that you stop learning. Life is learning, and you need to keep learning all the time, continuously, moving forward as you grow. So that's the first practical step in embracing your expertise, continuous learning. The next one, networking. Every Saturday, we host a meetup group where people get together and other podcasters, and we meet together on meetup.com. If you're interested, link in the show notes, howtopodcast.ca. You can come and join us. It's totally free. We get together with other podcasters, share our experiences, our knowledge, our lack of knowledge, our questions, our answers, and we build community together every week. So it's not a once a month. It's not once every 2 months. It's every week. And you're invited. I'd love to have you there. There's a chair vacant at our table, and I'm waiting for you to fill it. So please come and join us. By networking and building connections with other people in your space, you get to share knowledge and gain new perspectives. You get to gain an ally, someone else who can help you on your journey, and you can help them. When you join up in these groups, don't go to get, go to give. Go to share your ideas, your struggles, your wins, and then you'll inspire someone else. And in that process, you'll also receive. So build your networking group. The next part is in self-reflection. Somehow, some way, however it works for you, on your phone, paper and pen, a journal, something. Document your achievements. Document the milestones. Don't let them pass by. The lessons you've learned, the ways you are growing, the things that are easier today than they were yesterday. Those are all things you can build upon. And if you don't document them, you won't even make sense to you to keep track of them. You won't understand how much you've grown. If you want a simple way to see how better you are as a podcaster, especially if you've had many episodes, go back to the early days. First 10 episodes, press play, listen to them all, and go, wow, I was so robotic, or I was so stiff. I'm just kind of, you could tell I wasn't loose and relaxed. I hadn't found my voice yet. I haven't found my flow and how I do my show, and it feels really disjointed. Self-reflect, look back, celebrate the things that are gone well, review the things that did not go well, learn from them, and document your process. I think you'll learn a lot just by keeping track of how you're growing. So again, these 4 practical steps to embrace your expertise. We talked about continuous learning, networking, self-reflection, and the last one is mentorship. I think we all need a mentor. I think we all need somebody who's slightly ahead of us we can learn from and grow from. I have mentors. I have people I look up to, and I love mentoring others at the same time. By mentoring others, I get to grow because questions come to me that I haven't really wrestled with, and I need to go find the answers. I need to learn for myself so I can help others. So here's what I'm doing with the How to Podcast series. And I've been doing this from the beginning of the podcast in small groups and individually and here and there. I've been giving out free coaching through my website, and it's the howtopodcast.ca website. There's a calendar link, and people have been using that, coming in with questions, and we're working together, and we're seeing success. We're seeing people start their show, which is awesome. But I haven't really just kind of told you guys about this because I never really thought to, because it's just kind of happening in the background. But I want to do more of it because we're seeing big wins. And I love talking to you. That's a different level of interaction than just me talking to a microphone and recording my voice. I love talking to you. So through my howtopodcast.ca website, you have access to my calendar, but I have a special link just for you as a listener to book time with me completely for free. I'm not here to sell you anything. I just want to meet with you. I love talking to listeners, and you can ask me anything about podcasting to help you with your show, whether you're just starting, maybe you're coming up with your idea, the name of your show, or you've been podcasting for a while and you want to grow. You want to get better engagement. You want to make sure you're on all the platforms. You want me to look at your website and maybe let's do some tweaks together to make it better. You just want to grow. Let's look at my artwork. Let's listen to my podcast. I'm stuck, Dave, and I just need to move forward. So what I'm doing for the next few months is I'm putting it out there that there's a special link just for you in this podcast that I'll share in the show notes. And that is a special part of my calendar only for my listeners. Okay, you can go to the howtopodcast.ca website and you can get in my calendar, and that's fine. That's open to everybody. But this is just for you. Okay, and I just wanted you to know that there's a way for you and I to have a conversation. And again, selfishly, I just want to meet you, and I want to hear from you about the show, what's serving you, what's not, how the show could be better, topic ideas. But then let's talk about your situation. Okay? So I'm going to ask you questions like, how can we in 30 minutes give you some direction and guidance to help your show be better, or help you start, or help you grow, whatever that is for you. Okay? So there's a link, there's an address link to my Calendly link in the show notes. That is for my listeners only. And it's free. Like I said, I'm not here to sell you anything. I do want to eventually grow my coaching side of How to Podcast series and help people. I do still want to get off nights, which I'm still doing. I'm still working nights and doing this during the daytime. I would love to do that. Again, I would love to be home with my wife. Selfishly, that would be great. I did marry my wife to be with her, not to not be with her. So that's really my goal. And I know that coaching, having regular coaching clients down the road that are paid clients, that I can serve you and I can help you one-on-one beyond the podcast. So that's kind of my goal, but I'm using the next few months just to build up the references, maybe for having you come and we work together and you can give me a reference that I can put on the website that show other people that this is a valuable interaction, that's really going to help me a lot. So that would be great if you can do that. But I just want to throw my calendar open to you as a listener and give you a special link. So it'll show up in my calendar different than everything else that I get, and I'll know that it's a listener. So that's there for you, no matter where you are in the world. Okay, 30 minutes in my calendar, completely free, and let's get together and do that. And then you're like, well, Dave, I don't know, like when you do go to paid count, working with people and stuff, I won't be able to afford it. Then great. You have the How to Podcast series with over 400 episodes. We cover it all here, and you can listen to the show and pull in the information you want. And this is always free. 3 times a week, always free, information for you. But if you do want to have a conversation with me, then use the link in the show notes, which is my special listener calendar link, and I'd love to talk to you. Okay? Mentorship is really important. It really helps both to find a mentor and to be a mentor. So one thing I would encourage you to do, find a mentor and become a mentor for someone else. By doing these 4 things, continuously learning, networking, self-reflection, and finding your mentor, these are all ways that you can help to embrace your expertise. So as Sarah shared at the beginning of the podcast, becoming an expert or being an expert is not a finish line moment. It's not something you're going to all of a sudden cross a line and now you're an expert. Expertise is found in being curious. Expertise is found in learning, growing, developing, and bringing people along on the journey as you grow. That's where true expertise is found. So when someone says to you, why do you think you're an expert? Or how do you think that you can be the one to talk about this subject? You're no expert. Okay, well, maybe I'm not, but I am on the journey of becoming and developing my expertise. By going through these 4 things we talked about, I am working my way towards uncovering my expertise. And I know a little bit more than others, which helps me and gives me the platform then to use that knowledge to help other people. Don't be afraid of the title of being an expert. Don't look down at your feet and kick rocks and go, I'm not really that smart, or I haven't really been doing it that long, and there's people smarter than me and better educated, and they make more money than I do, and I'm not that great. You are that great because you have a story to tell. You have things you've learned that other people haven't, and we need your voice. We need your voice in podcasting. We need your voice in coaching. We need you to help lead other people in the things that you have learned. Again, if you want to learn how to drive standard manual transmission, I could teach you that because I've been doing it forever. So when you learn something, you gain that knowledge. It's your knowledge to keep. It's your knowledge to share. And it's your responsibility to do so. So you are an expert. I want you to understand that as we wrap up. You are an expert in your space. There is no one like you. There is no one better than you because you're the only you. And you have the corner of the market on you. So leverage it. Build community. Build your podcast. Build your confidence. Build up what you do. And don't be afraid of people who look at you and say, there's no way that person knows everything about everything. They're right. You don't know everything about everything, but you're on the path to learn more. That makes you an expert. Embrace your expertise, everyone. You are great at what you do, and you know a lot. You know more than you realize. Uncover it, journal it, figure it out so that you can understand that your podcast journey is unique. Focus on continuous learning, network with others in the space, reflect on your journey, and mentor. Find a mentor and be a mentor. Thanks for listening to the How to Podcast series. Remember, I have a special link just for you so that you and I can work together and develop your podcast. It's only for listeners. It's free, and I'd love to talk to you. Use the link in the show notes. Thanks everyone for listening. Talk soon. Hey, thanks for being here at the end of the podcast. This is just for you because you're still here. Thank you for your support for the podcast. Thank you for listening to the show, sharing it with other podcasters. Maybe somebody you know is thinking about starting a show. I would love for you to say, hey, wait. You should go check out the How to Podcast series. It's got everything you need. And Dave as well is included. You get one free Dave with the How to Podcast series. I'm included with it. So kind of a bundle thing you get. To that point, mentioning it in the podcast, definitely want to remind you here at the end, there's a link in the show notes. Starting it this summer, I'm working through this. It's a way for us, you and I, to have a conversation around podcasting. I want to help you. And I've been doing this for people who listen to the show now for almost 3 years. And I just haven't been promoting it as a thing. So I'm now promoting it as a thing. I want to spend time with you. I kind of would love to hear your voice. We're going to jump on Zoom together. We're going to talk about your podcast. You get time one-on-one with me, 30 minutes in my calendar, completely free, no strings attached. You don't have to buy a blender or a vacuum or none of that stuff. No. Just us. I just like to help you. And whether you're thinking about starting a show or you have a show, you want to grow your show, whatever it is, I'd love to meet you, talk about your struggles, your questions, work together. And I am eventually developing this into more of a coaching program for podcasters. But I'm starting with my best friends first, for free. So if you're interested, you listen to the show, and I appreciate you. Link in the show notes. Let's get together and talk podcasting, okay? You and me. Let's talk. Let's talk soon. See you. Thanks.